Once upon a time in a quiet little village, a boy was born with a gentle heart, curious eyes, and a mind that dreamed far beyond the rice fields around him. No one knew then that he'd one day carry a nation, that he'd become the first Muslim president of Guyana, and only the second Muslim head of state in all the Americas. But here he is, Dr. Muhammad Irfaan Ali, a man shaped by faith, raised on humble soil, and walking history with two little boys holding his hands and a wife who walks step for step beside him. This isn't just politics. This is a Caribbean love story with oil, ambition, and a whole lot of purpose. If Caribbean stories like this light you up, like, subscribe, and drop a comment. This one is about love, legacy, and leadership. Born on April 25, 1980, in Leonora, a quiet village nestled on the west coast of Demerara, Irfaan Ali came into the world where the sea breeze danced through sugarcane fields and the calls to prayer echoed from village mosques. His upbringing was deeply rooted in the rhythms of rural Guyana. Early morning far prayers, barefoot errands to the corner shop, cricket on dusty roads, and evenings filled with quiet observation rather than noise. Raised by devout Indo-Guyanese Muslim parents, Irfaan Ali's parents, Mohammed Osman Ali and Bibi Sherry Manisha, were both devoted educators, guardians not just of knowledge, but of values. Together with his brother, Mohammed Akhtar Ali, the family spent part of their lives on the serene island of Leguan, where the sea breeze met the sounds of school bells. In that nurturing environment, learning wasn't just a duty, it was a way of life. The chalk-stained hands of his parents didn't just teach in classrooms, they shaped a future leader, word by word, prayer by prayer, lesson by lesson. Irfaan was instilled with the timeless values of humility, hard work, and compassion. He wasn't loud, but he was steady. The kind of child whose teachers remembered him as different, and whose elders whispered, "That boy going far." But long before Irfaan would go far, his ancestors had already journeyed oceans. His maternal great-great-great-grandparents, Ujiyari and Bijawan, came from Basi village in Telajepur Thana, Basti district, in what is now Uttar Pradesh, India. In 1894, Ujiyari, Bijawan, their son Daldar, for other children, and a daughter-in-law left their homeland aboard the ship Rhine, bound for British Guiana under the indentureship system. They were assigned to plantation success in Leguan, part of the vast, brutal machinery that replaced slavery in the colonies with contracted Indian labor. It is from Daldar, son of Ujiyari, that Irfaan descends. This history, often forgotten or glossed over in official books, remains woven into the very soil Irfaan grew up on. It's part of what gave him his deep sense of justice and belonging, not just to a land, but to a lineage of survivors and builders. While many teenagers were plotting their escape from small-town limits, Irfaan was sketching something else entirely, an audacious vision of a better Guyana, one where equity, unity, and opportunity weren't reserved for the elite, but spread across coastlines, creeks, and communities. His academic path took him far. A degree in management from the University of the West Indies, a master's in human resource planning and development from India, and later, a PhD in urban and regional planning from UWI, St. Augustine. But Irfaan's success wasn't just stamped by universities. It was baptized in the fire of ambition. So how did he break into politics? Well, you know how they say preparation meets opportunity? In Irfaan's case, it was more like prayer met persistence. In his early 20s, Irfaan joined the People's Progressive Party Civic, PPP/C, one of Guyana's oldest and most influential political parties. And get this, he didn't show up waving banners and yelling slogans. No, Irfaan Ali came in as the quiet strategist, working behind the scenes in the office of the president under Barrett Jagdeo. But he didn't stay in the shadows for long. By his early 30s, he made history, appointed Minister of Housing and Water, where he led massive housing developments across Guyana. Thousands of families, especially low-income ones, were finally able to call a piece of land home. That's when the public first said, "Wait, who is this guy?" And just like that, a humble boy from Leonora had walked into the engine room of power, not through noise, but through service. His big break. It came in 2020, after a controversial election season filled with recounts and international scrutiny. The 2020 Guyanese election wasn't just about votes. It was about race, oil, and power. A showdown between a mostly Indo-Guyanese PPP and an Afro-Guyanese-led government. And at the center of it all, a soft-spoken Muslim man from Leonora, Irfaan Ali. When the ballots were cast, the PPP/C led. But then, suspicion. Stalling. Spreadsheets adjusted in back rooms. Ballots disappeared. Officials suddenly couldn't count. One even tried to declare results using a spreadsheet no one had seen before. International observers weren't having it. The US and EU raised alarms. Even the OAS called it out, electoral fraud in broad daylight. But here's what no one says aloud. Ali's religion might have actually helped steady the ship. In a land where Indo-Guyanese politics often leans Hindu and tensions with Afro-Guyanese run high, Ali, a Muslim, stood apart, neutral, unbothered by the usual lines. He wasn't the typical PPP face. And ironically, in a country where Muslims are a minority, this time it worked in his favor. He didn't fan flames. He didn't shout. He stayed calm, grounded, disciplined. He fasted while others plotted. He prayed while the courts flipped. And when the international community leaned in hard, with threats of sanctions and visa bans, he stayed ready. After months of recounts, legal gymnastics, and global pressure, the math couldn't lie. Irfaan Ali won. And in doing so, he didn't just become Guyana's 10th president. He became the country's first Muslim head of state. And a rare leader in a divided land who people across racial, religious, and political lines could actually stomach. Now, let's peek behind the palace gates. Because while the world saw a president, Guyana saw a family. His wife, Arya Ali, is more than just beautiful smiles and flowing saris. She's a doer, a thinker, a soul lifter, the type who could turn a room full of silence into a room full of solutions. As First Lady, she's led national drives to end period poverty, boost mental health for youth, and revive community spaces. But her greatest mission? Raising two extraordinary little boys. Zaid Ali, their firstborn, sharp, kind, and already leading. He recently organized a lemonade stand at State House and raised over $6 million GYD for animal welfare. A boy who learned early that power is forgiving. Imagine being 8 years old, running fundraisers in the same garden where your dad hosts world leaders. And then came Ilan Ali, born Father's Day, June 18th, 2023, just after midnight, the first baby ever born to a sitting president of Guyana. The nurses said it felt magical, like history whispered its approval as he entered the world. This isn't just a presidential family. This is storybook stuff. Evenings of bedtime stories with security guards outside the door. Family walks by the seawall. A home where love is louder than protocol. Being the first Muslim president in a land as spiritually diverse as Guyana isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. And yet, Irfaan Ali never weaponized his faith. He didn't enter politics to preach Islam, nor did he ever feel the need to shout it from podiums. Instead, he lives it, quietly, consistently, and with dignity. He fasts during Ramadan without fanfare. He breaks bread at Eid not just with family, but with the people. And when Diwali comes, he lights dayas. When Christmas arrives, he shares greetings. When emancipation is celebrated, he shows up in solidarity. Because for Irfaan, unity isn't a slogan, it's sacred. Something you protect. Something you nourish. Something you build. His message has always been clear, almost stubborn in its simplicity. One people, one nation, one destiny. And in a world where politicians thrive by sowing division, by playing race against race, religion against religion, Ali chose a harder path. He builds bridges. Between faiths, between classes, even between bitter political rivals. And when the world stayed silent as bombs rained over Gaza in 2024, Irfaan Ali didn't blink. He called it what many were too afraid to name, nothing short of genocide. As a Christian myself, I may not fully agree with the political weight of that stance, but I understand the loyalty behind it. It wasn't about religion, it was about humanity. And sometimes, leadership means standing firm for people you'll never meet, in places you'll never go. But here's something that hits deeper. Ali isn't just a proud Guyanese. he can trace exactly where he came from. His great-great-great-grandparents, Ujjari and Bujawan, came from Basi village in present-day Uttar Pradesh, India. They arrived in British Guyana in 1894 aboard the ship Rhine as indentured laborers. He knows the names, the village, even the boat. How many of us Black West Indians can say the same? Most of us barely know past our great-grandparents, let alone which ship carried our ancestors across the Atlantic. That erasure, that disconnection, is one of our deepest losses. And it makes Ali's sense of identity feel even more grounded, more unshakable. A Muslim leader, a global voice, a Caribbean son with roots deep in both soil and spirit, not afraid to speak truth, no matter the cost. As Guyana began to rise, so did the shadows around her. Just as the oil started flowing, so too did old tensions with Venezuela. For decades, Guyana has peacefully governed the resource-rich Essequibo region, but Venezuela has long claimed it as its own. And now, with oil and gas reserves becoming a global obsession, Caracas wasn't just rattling sabers. It was organizing referendums, sending troops to the border, and testing Guyana's resolve. Enter President Irfaan Ali, no longer the quiet housing minister, but now the commander-in-chief of a nation under threat. With grace and grit, Irfaan took the fight, not to the battlefield, but to global diplomacy. He brought the matter to the International Court of Justice, ICJ. He called on CARICOM, the OAS, the Commonwealth, and even the UN. Guyana will not cede an inch of its territory, he declared to the world. We will not be bullied. We will not be broken. And let's be real, this wasn't just about maps and minerals. This was about national identity. A young, diverse, vibrant republic defending her right to exist, grow, and prosper in peace. But Ali didn't stoke war. He didn't flex for the cameras. Instead, he built alliances, deepened ties with the United States, India, Brazil, and CARICOM, quietly transforming Guyana into a country whose friends outnumber its fears. And the truth is, this moment, this David versus Goliath standoff, may define Irfaan Ali's legacy. Because it showed the world that Guyana, under his watch, would not be treated like a pawn. Not now. Not ever. Irfaan Ali is not just a leader. He's a new kind of Caribbean story, part servant, part scholar, part soft-hearted dad. A man raising two sons, Zaid and Elon, to be proud of their name and their nation. A husband loving Arya with grace and respect. A president reminding us that power doesn't have to corrupt, it can elevate. He's planting trees he may never sit under, but his sons will, and so will yours. And that's the legacy he's building, not just for Guyana, but for the Caribbean. If this story touched you, smash that like, click subscribe, and comment if you believe in the power of Caribbean family and leadership. This is President Irfaan Ali. A father, a faithful man, a fierce believer in his people. From Leonora to the world, from lullabies to oil summits, from bedtime prayers to head of state. Stay rooted, stay rising, and stay sweet, West Indies.